Hello everyone, my name is Wade the Wallaby. Now, here are my canceled projects that I've been working on, I should say, canceled projects. Now, this is what I basically had for a little while, but then it sounded ridiculous. So here's all my things that I had ideas, but then I removed them because of reasons. The first one is Werewolf Edward. Werewolf Edward was a spacecraft that would be basically with the Werewolf Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. And these things would be used to go to all the moons in the solar system around Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and Pluto. Now, obviously, there was a missing thing. Mars, Phobos, and Deimos. To finish off with this expensive project, I will add in Werewolf Edward, but I removed it because it just wasn't. It was just, I don't know. I just didn't want a spacecraft because pretty much a lot of spacecraft these days are basically ready to go to Phobos and Deimos or on Mars, and it just was too much of all of the things into the categories, and it didn't work with anything. This was a small project that I only had for a few days, and then I just like, okay, I'm not gonna do it anymore. I had drawings of it and plans, but it just seemed kind of ridiculous. Having all of these spacecraft, I almost canceled all of them. I pretty much removed a lot of the Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie because I probably would have went to Werewolf Alpha as opposed to go to Saturn first, and then I think it would go to Pluto. But then I think I should use Werewolf Alpha to go to Jupiter. Once it is finished the project, it should go to Pluto. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's possible. To orbit around certain bodies with an ion engine. Werewolf Edward was supposed to be a liquid fuel engine, and what it would do is it's going to orbit around Phobos and Deimos, take pictures, high-resolution pictures. It wouldn't have a lander, I don't think, but it would take high-resolution pictures of around there to have a great, big, giant, great picture of a polar orbit around them. I canceled it because, I don't know, for reasons. The next project is called, I think it was I don't cancel it, but a lot of things have changed recently. It's a old project that I had for a while and I just forgot about it. It's called Wallaby Program. The Wallaby Program is supposed to be a space shuttle-sized spacecraft, but it had wings. It was like a Soyuz spacecraft, but with 3 highly gimbaled engines. And what it did was it was powerful enough to land, and it also had an orbiter stage. But the orbiter stage would be removed of two of them. There would be 2 of these Wallaby Program. And what it would do is they will be reusable. There will be a mothership. They'll dock. The capsule looks like the capsule from the Soyuz, so it gives you, but it was like bigger. It was possibly the same size as a SLS tank. It would carry at least more than 7 people. More than that, maybe 10. But it would be huge. It would be a super capsule. It would be massive. It also will probably be bigger than the Starship, but its engines will extend. They don't extend. They just are out there wide enough. So basically, it would be the widest spacecraft ever to be built, wider than the Saturn V, because of the engines are on the outside. It's supposed to be reference to a normal rocket, like a cartoon rocket, but it only was different. And instead, it would just launch the whole thing. It would actually launch and then take apart 2 sections: the engines and the fuel tank stage, and the capsule and the orbiter stage. It's just like the Soyuz. Although it didn't have solar panels. Maybe later things would have solar panels, but it probably did. It probably used fuel cells instead because for some reason I didn't want to put solar panels because it kind of looked ridiculous. So fuel cells, I guess, would be the ideal thing to do. I do still have this idea, but it's just ridiculous almost. And the only way to launch it is possibly by Atlas rocket or a Delta Heavy. It was supposed to be a capable with those rockets, but I'm not sure if it could handle the stresses. It would launch an SLS, but it kind of would look ridiculous. Um, but the bottom would be a strut. The landing legs used to be on the bottom; they will fold out. But I actually built this in Kerbal, and it was kind of a bit unstable because of its so heaviness. The landing legs couldn't take anymore, so I think I should use landing legs on all sides of the booster. But this was like a huge thing. But in the Kerbal version, it doesn't have the 2-stage. For the Mars mission, it will use balloons and parachutes and balloons to slow its descent to Mars, and it will land. And yeah, that was supposed to be a manned mission to Mars. Next up is possibly another project. Let's see. Werewolf. There was someone. Let me see. I know there's one more. Like Cassini, I probably have told you about this, but this is called the Cassini Rescue Operation. I canceled this because it's already destroyed, but this was an early concept of saving Cassini from its impending doom. It was a ridiculous rocket that will basically go as fast as possible to reach there before the time is up. And it basically will have a solid rocket boosters all over it, and it would just be so big, it would just be ridiculous. And what it will do, it will have arms on it to grab on Cassini and then push it out to have another mission. I canceled it because they already went into, into Saturn. So this was supposed to be, a thing because Cassini was really doing work. And yeah, so next canceled project that I had, let's see. I don't know what to use for the Wolf Coyote landers or balloon thing. I think I should have like a acronym or something for it too, because let's see. Projects. Oh yeah, the Fender tugboat. Now this was supposed to be a tugboat of some sort. I canceled it because it sounded ridiculous, but it was supposed to be a reference to the administrator and owner of For Infinity, Fender. And it was supposed to be a spacecraft that would be designed to be a space tug. I canceled it because it just was like, it looked like the Explorer 1 spacecraft, and it just looked embarrassing. So I had to cancel it. And because also, there was also that name is a reference to I should say, some type of experiment on the moon that the astronauts put down, and it was called the Fender thing. I didn't know what it did. I think it was a seismometer, but I heard in the radio on there was saying Fender things, and I'm like, oh, so yeah, it's I think it's supposed to be a sensor. I don't know what it was, but it was called that. I believe it's an acronym of some sort. So yeah. Um, the Werewolf space plane without the wings. This was the early development of the Werewolf space plane. When I was working on a rocket and Kerbal space program, I wanted to see if I can launch a sort of like a Atlas 5 rocket, you know, around, yeah. Wait, that does sound right. The Atlas rocket with a plane on the front, and what it will do is it will have wheels and it's going to launch this way. However, it just didn't work for some reason. It just kept on crashing. It just blew up. It's just the aerodynamics from it. So instead of launching this way, I launched it this way on a runway, and it didn't work as planned. I thought I would get the gimbal of the engines would have like left it up, but I believe that was before the auto strut. I think I did put auto strut on it, but it just couldn't work. It just wouldn't work at all. It just got stuck in place. So yeah, it didn't get stuck. It just bent, and so I had to find a solution to fix this. So I think I had a wings on it. Then I was, in that playing Kerbal, and I was like thinking, I'm like, maybe if I put wings on it. And this was, I don't think it was back in 2017. Actually, it was, because, so yeah, it was definitely back in 2017. And I've been working on it ever since, and to add things and remove things. I was thinking about removing the aerospike engines and turn it into one single engine. That will lower the cost to build engines, so you just use one engine. But two engines for allow you to go this way, but one engine could be fine. So, anything else that I canceled? I don't know. Oh yes, the Werewolf Delta. I think it's called Werewolf Delta. Werewolf Delta was not in the werewolf to the moon. It was actually a lander. Werewolf Delta was a canceled project. It was a lander, and what it would do, it had 3 landers on board. And what it would do is it's going to land with all those landers, and then one of the landers would detach, or I should say 2 of them would detach. Well, first of all, it's going to be a mile away from the rest of it. So it will fly, and then once it reaches a mile, it will land, and then it will take apart. So basically, it was just a lander. Would be heavy, but every single time it lands, it detaches, it becomes lighter. So there will be a smaller engine. It will land, then that one will come apart, then land. Basically, the idea is to mine materials from the far side of the moon to collect anything to make sure it survives. And there will be a sphere that would contain, toys, like minifigures of some sort, to simulate people inside a habitat. And basically, this will be used for collecting resources like oxygen, water, and they will be converted into oxygen to fill into there. It also will be something that is susceptible to carbon dioxide or something, a plant or something like that, to keep it stable. This was a really good concept. I was really excited for this to be the first ever to the far side of the moon. However, things didn't go as planned. In 2019, I think, China made their first far side landing. So I had to cancel it because they already did it. Instead, the Werewolf Delta didn't have any rovers or anything. It was it would be launched on a Atlas, and then it would be Centaur, and then it would get their stage, and it would just maneuver there. It's not going to have that all those stages, but it will have enough fuel to reach their land. This would be very kind of weird thing, and so, yeah, it would be on the far side of the moon, and it would do experiments, scientific experiments, but yeah, we don't know much about the far side of the moon because I don't know, but still, it was. But then I realized, hey, I could use that same type of thing. So I built I built a new type of lander, but it wasn't called Werewolf Delta. It's called LRCO or something 2. It was a reference to a orbiter and impactor from 2009 from the LRR and into the polar regions of the moon. But this would be landed in the polar regions, and it would be a surface sample return. And what it would do is it land, take a north or south pole sample, bring it back home, and then we can analyze it. Basically, this would be it'd be very advanced rover. Lander. So yeah, it will work as the same, and then it will be return vehicle, and then we'll take it back to home. It's not canceled, but the Werewolf Delta is canceled. I really was so interested in having all these 3 landers, spluttered, and I knew where it was going to land. It was going to land in Gagarin area. I don't know why, because it was easy. So I plotted it's going to land. I actually put the coordinates where it was going to land. So a mile away of each other. And it was a really good project. Next up is possibly not a cancel, but it's like a concept, but it's either cancel or whatever. What it would do, it was called the Terminator spacecraft. You heard of me say that, but it's actually going to be called something else. But it may actually still sound like that. But what it will do is it's going to have scram engines on the spacecraft. It's going to be like a space plane. It's sort of a development. It will be a super lander for the Werewolf space plane. It's like a super heavy lifter cargo ship to the moon, and it will return back to Earth in the future to bring in big supplies to the moon base. Once it's all developed and there's citizens and stuff, we gotta bring food and supplies and materials and all that stuff, like electronics, and bring some big massive machinery that could be folded out. They could come out, and then inflatable, some type of habitat that could be, extended out, and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a really cool idea to use scramjets to actually merge up. It will start to go faster, 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 but it will actually stay at this height, and then it will keep going. And then once it reaches orbital velocity, it's going to go upwards, and then it should get out the Earth's atmosphere. And so it should use less fuel. It will use a lot of fuel once it gets up there, but once it reaches a speed and height, it's going to use its scram engines, and it's going to, keep going. I have done this in Orbiter 2016, so you keep going, and then you do this. Get rid of the atmosphere, and then shut the scram engines off, and then use your main engines to get up there. I sometimes would have gone down and bounced back up. It'd be like this, because you go down to lose velocity, but then you're going fast, and then you have friction, and then your scram engines come up, and then you go up and down. But eventually, it's going to be stable. It will take a while. It will be a longer procedure than just lifting off and going to orbit. It will be a smooth, not smooth, but it will be very hot, because this thing will be very fast, and it's going to have to stay in the atmosphere long enough to use a lot of the scram fuel, and it's going to merge. And once it reaches there, it's going to finally do that, and then it'll have enough fuel to reach the moon. It could be refueled and come back. But it's not canceled. It's not canceled. But there is a little spacecraft that I did remove on the Wolf Coyote spacecraft. The Chicago lander. I canceled it because we don't need a solar panel or anything like that on the spacecraft. So we removed that because there'll be already solar panels on the other spacecraft. And then, it will have batteries, and, and when it lands, it can extend its batteries. I mean, not batteries, but solar panels. So I removed that, because it's not necessary, because it just be like stage and then bam. So yeah, yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's one more. The Lycanthrope lander. The reason why I canceled it is because it was supposed to be like a helicopter type of thing to the moon, and it was supposed to be very ridiculous, and it just had big arms, it was like, what? It was, space plane type of thing, and I just, it wasn't worth it at all. It was just supposed to be a module lander to land modules. We could just use the SLS instead, because that would be more useful. So yeah, I think that wraps it up of all the canceled projects I had, things that were small, and, that was a big deal, So yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I get to know.